The reshaping the world responses to the terror matrix. The world has been witnessing a flurry on the meeting and conference on the issue of countering terrorism worldwide. The list resembles an alphabetic soup visa meeting of the United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee, the No Money for Terror Conference, and an Interpol conference in which terrorism figured prominently. The recurring theme has been the need to wage the coordinated fight against terrorism. Nothing such, however, seems to have called India and Pakistan, for instance, among the most affected by terrorism, has continued to hurl invective at each other instead of finding a way to cooperate to deal with the terrorism menace. Much of the world is continuing on their path. None of this augurs well for the fight against terrorism. The relevance of past instance. An offered repeated committee, he henceforth recalling visa history is most relevant when it comes to ensuring a proper understanding of threats such as terrorism, which have a long term impact. While there appears to be full lure as far as major terror incidents are concerned, it must not be lost insight of that it was recently as at the beginning of this century that worldwide witnessed several landmark terror attacks. Two that stands our meet were the September 11, 2001 terror attack in New York and the November 26, 2008 attack on multiple targets in Mumbai. Both in their own way reflected the kind of paradigmatic changes that were taking place in the practice of violence. Both has profound strategy implication. The 1911 attack here which comes to be regarded as the new age terrorism, while Mumbai underscored the danger of star sponsored terrorism. With this attacks, the cognitive maps of terrorism has changed. This was confirmed by the series of major terror attacks at that looks peace place in 2015-16. The attack on the Charlie Hebdo office in Paris, January 2015, on the Pardo Museum in Tunis, March 2015, were followed by the one in Istanbul, in which several were killed in 2016. There was also the attack in Paris again in November 2015, in which at least 130 were killed, signaled not only the emergency of new age terrorism but also the rise of a new terrorist entities such as Islamic State IS and the Al Qaeda, each with their own caliphates. During 2016, the IS launched several more spectacular attacks, some with its allies across Asia, Europe, North Africa. The intensity has since declined to an extent, but this is an offset by indication of a new complicated patterns of relationship among the various terrorist conglomerates. It has provided the fillip to many French extremist organizations that nurse a terror mindset. Hence, it would be wise for those in authorities to heed the warning that terrorism could well prove to be a defining threat to of many emerging that present, but future generation as well. The terrorism remains the omnipresent threat that it has always been. The locals may shift, but the threat remains. While Europe and Asia remains in the crosshair of different terrorist groups, Africa and Northwest Asia appearing to have become the main hunting ground of the Al Qaeda and IS terrorists. The linkage among the terrorist group has, if anything, become a strengthened, and evidence of this was forthcoming very recently, which Al Qaeda leaders Al-Mana al-Zawahiri, successor to the Osama bin Laden, was identified as a living in Kabul in a safe house maintained by the Haqqani network, which has ties with Pakistan intelligence. Zawahiri was eliminated in July 2022 in US directed Hellfire missile attack while he was still in Kabul. All this confirms, if confirmation was required, that Al Qaeda has both the advocacy and advisory role, vice versa the Taliban in Afghanistan. What is also becoming evident is that Al Qaeda activities in particular are becoming the more decentralized. It is finding the fertile ground in the exit region of Africa and in Eastern Africa. Apart from its alliances in Afghanistan, among the Al Qaeda firmest allies today is undoubtedly a Taliban. The Al Qaeda network within the new Taliban government provide many an opportunity for Al Qaeda to find a greater transaction across the region. The new mix, the belief that growing ambient of terrorist attacks, the belief that growing ambient of terrorist activities was the primary reason for the recent spat of meeting on terrorism would, however, is be misleading. Very little seems to have been discussed at this meeting on how to deal with the spat of newer terror groups, that is, group apart from Al Qaeda and IS who ambit of the activities has widened the become more widespread. There is again no indication that the meeting took stock of the fact that ideological intervened with religious extremes had become an even more potent threat than the previous. Instead, it would be seems that the terrorist handle has had become useful tool for many governments to drum up the support for their various initiatives without much absence to their declaration. Many of the past problems still remain. The declining level of serious terrorist incidents do not, however, translate into the decline in terrorism. No doubt, today the scale down the attacks of little known target do not attract public attention, but as at most other field of human endurance, it is a small incident that portrayed which would happen in the near a not too distant future. It would be unfortunate if counter-terrorism experts across India were not to be read proper meaning into many recent terror attacks such as one in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu and Mangalore, Karnataka attacks. The incident may appear relatively insignificant but are symptomatic of growing radicalization and the suggestive of the fact that sizable base is being built in the southern region which would lead to the creation of organization on the model of Indian Mujahideen of early 2000. Concern and the careful vigilance by the counter-terrorism expert is need to keep a track of not only these activities but also kind of links that has been established under the radar by global terrorist outfit which present in is not widely advised as Al Qaeda and IS. The measurable needed. Hence, what is most needed by the world leaders at one level is not to accept all declaration of a decline in level of terrorism at a fact value and the another level not to treat some terrorist as a good and other as a bad based on the age nation predictions. The next step is to reactivate the proposal for the comprehensive convention on the international terrorism that has been languishing in the office of UN since India first proposed this on 1990s. The finalists the list of items need to be checked terrorism globally. Acceptance of CCIT would send signals far more potential than empty platitude by world leaders at global conference on the need to defect the terrorism. Once the CCIT is accepted by the UN, the war on terror would gain a new silence. Additionally, the counterterrorism agency the world over need to hone their skills and capability on how best to counter new age terrorism. There is also a clear need for counterterrorism agency across the world to function in a more coordinating manner, enhancing the both intelligence and tactics. They need to take stock of the newer patterns of terror, such as enabled terrorism and remote control terrorism via violence convinced and guided by the control thousands of miles away. The posting the danger of internet enables the terrorism, counterterrorism except will again need to enlarge their expertise to accommodate multi-domain operations and undertake terror gaming, all of which have been essential in today's day and age.